My name is Ethan Carter, and for 10 years, I believed trust was the strongest wall protecting a marriage. I believed love could survive stress, money problems, and difficult days. I believed Olivia Carter and I had built something stronger than any problem waiting outside our front door. I was wrong. The first sign appeared slowly. Olivia Carter started coming home later than usual. Olivia Carter started checking the phone more often. Olivia Carter started turning the screen away whenever messages arrived. At first, I ignored everything. Olivia Carter, are late client meetings becoming normal now? I asked one evening while sitting at the kitchen table. Olivia Carter placed a coffee cup down and smiled. Ethan Carter, why are you asking that question again? Because I miss spending time with my wife. Olivia Carter sighed and sat across from me. Ethan Carter, work is stressful. Interior projects are not simple. Clients want changes every day. I understand work is important. I just feel like something changed. Olivia Carter looked directly into my eyes. Trust makes marriage stronger, Ethan Carter. Those words sounded comforting before. That night, those words felt different. I forced a smile. I trust Olivia Carter. Olivia Carter reached across the table and held my hand. Then stop worrying. I wanted to believe those words. I wanted to believe Olivia Carter more than my own doubts. For years, Olivia Carter had been the person I came home to after exhausting days. Olivia Carter had celebrated every small success with me. Olivia Carter had promised that money, fame, and problems would never change our relationship. But promises are easy when life is simple. The real test comes when temptation enters the room. A week later, I noticed another strange moment. Olivia Carter received a phone call during dinner. The moment Olivia Carter saw the name on the screen, Olivia Carter stood up. I need to take this. I watched Olivia Carter walk toward the hallway. 5 minutes passed, then 10 minutes. When Olivia Carter returned, the expression looked different. Who called? I asked. Just a client. At 8:30 at night, Olivia Carter placed the phone on the table. Ethan Carter, not every phone call is a problem. I didn't say every phone call was a problem, but the questions are becoming a problem. The answer hurt more than I expected. I looked down at my plate. I just want honesty. Olivia Carter became quiet. After a few seconds, Olivia Carter whispered, Ethan Carter, sometimes too much suspicion destroys things. I nodded slowly. Maybe. That night, I stayed awake longer than Olivia Carter. I stared at the ceiling and tried to convince myself that everything was normal. My mind kept creating excuses. Maybe Olivia Carter was tired. Maybe work was overwhelming. Maybe I was imagining problems that did not exist. I chose love over suspicion. That choice became my biggest mistake. 3 days later, my anniversary arrived. I woke up early and planned a surprise for Olivia Carter. I bought flowers from a small shop near my office and ordered Olivia Carter's favorite dinner. I wanted to bring back the happiness we once had. I wanted Olivia Carter to remember the person who always stood beside Olivia Carter. I arrived home 2 hours earlier than expected. The house looked quiet. I smiled while holding the flowers. Olivia Carter will love this, I whispered. I opened the front door carefully. Olivia Carter? No answer. I walked inside. The living room lights were on. The dinner table was prepared. For 1 second, happiness returned. Then I heard a sound. Footsteps. Upstairs. I stopped moving. Someone was inside my house. I placed the flowers on the table and slowly walked toward the stairs. My heart started beating faster. Olivia Carter? Silence. Another sound came from the bedroom area. I climbed the stairs slowly. Each step felt heavier. When I reached the hallway, I saw the bedroom door slightly open. A man's voice came from inside. Olivia Carter, this situation cannot continue forever. I froze. I knew that voice. I pushed the door open. Mason Brooks stood near my bedroom window. Mason Brooks stood near my bedroom window. For a moment, I could not move. The flowers I brought for Olivia Carter suddenly felt meaningless. The anniversary dinner downstairs felt like a cruel joke. Olivia Carter turned around quickly. Ethan Carter, why are you home so early? I looked at Olivia Carter, then looked at Mason Brooks. What is Mason Brooks doing in our bedroom? Olivia Carter immediately stepped forward. Ethan Carter, calm down. This is not what it looks like. I laughed quietly. Olivia Carter, I opened my own bedroom door and found Mason Brooks standing here. What exactly should I think? Mason Brooks adjusted the watch on the wrist and spoke calmly. Ethan Carter, there is no reason to become emotional. Mason Brooks came here for business. Business happens in my bedroom now. Olivia Carter's expression changed. Ethan Carter, please listen. I'm listening. I have been listening for weeks. Every late meeting, every secret phone call, every excuse. Olivia Carter shook the head. Nothing happened. I looked at Mason Brooks. Then why is Mason Brooks inside my house? Mason Brooks answered before Olivia Carter could speak. Olivia Carter needed advice about a project. I stared at Mason Brooks. Advice requires hiding. Nobody answered. That silence hurt more than any confession. I walked toward the dresser and noticed a glass on the table. 2 glasses. 2 drinks. I looked back at Olivia Carter. 2 glasses for a business meeting. Olivia Carter quickly picked up 1 glass. Ethan Carter, this is becoming unfair. Unfair. My voice became quiet. Olivia Carter, I trusted everything Olivia Carter told me. Olivia Carter looked away. Ethan Carter, trust is important. I felt a painful smile appear. Trust makes marriage stronger, right? Olivia Carter became silent. Those words were the same words Olivia Carter repeated every time I questioned anything. Now those words sounded empty. Mason Brooks walked toward the door. Mason Brooks thinks Ethan Carter needs time to understand. I looked at Mason Brooks. No, Mason Brooks needs to leave my house. Mason Brooks stopped near the doorway. Ethan Carter, emotions can damage relationships. I stepped closer. Relationships are damaged by lies, not emotions. Mason Brooks left without another word. The front door closed. I stood in the hallway with Olivia Carter. The woman I loved looked like a stranger. Olivia Carter, tell me the truth. Olivia Carter crossed the arms. Ethan Carter, there is nothing between Mason Brooks and Olivia Carter. Then explain everything. I already explained. No. Olivia Carter gave excuses. Ethan Carter wants the truth. Olivia Carter looked frustrated. Why are you acting like Olivia Carter committed a crime? I looked at the person standing in front of me. Because something changed, Olivia Carter. Olivia Carter walked away. I need space. I stayed silent. That night, I did not sleep. I kept thinking about every strange moment, every unanswered question, every time Olivia Carter told me to trust without giving a reason. The next morning, I noticed something while Mason Brooks was leaving after another unexpected visit. Mason Brooks reached into a pocket to grab a phone. A small silver key fell onto the floor. I picked up the key after Mason Brooks walked away. My hands became cold. The key looked familiar. It was a house key. My house key. I looked toward the front door. For the first time, I understood the truth. Mason Brooks was not a visitor. Mason Brooks had access to my home. And Olivia Carter had been hiding something much bigger than a simple business meeting. After finding the silver key, I stopped searching for excuses. I stopped telling myself that Olivia Carter was simply busy. I stopped believing every explanation without proof. I still loved Olivia Carter, but love could no longer silence the questions inside my mind. The next morning, I walked into the kitchen and saw a new designer handbag sitting on the counter. I looked at Olivia Carter. Olivia Carter, where did this come from? Olivia Carter continued preparing coffee. It was a gift. From who? Olivia Carter looked uncomfortable for a second. A client. I picked up the handbag and checked the expensive label. Olivia Carter, a client gave this? Yes. Why would a client give a gift worth thousands of dollars? Olivia Carter placed the coffee cup down. Ethan Carter, why does everything need an explanation? Because something feels wrong. Olivia Carter sighed. Trust makes marriage stronger. I almost laughed. Those words again. I looked away. Olivia Carter, trust also requires honesty. Olivia Carter grabbed the handbag. I don't have time for this argument. Olivia Carter walked away. I stayed in the kitchen and felt another piece of my heartbreak. That afternoon, I checked my bank account. The savings account showed a number I did not expect. Money was missing. I stared at the screen for several minutes. I checked again. The amount was real. I immediately called Olivia Carter. Olivia Carter, did money leave our joint account? A few seconds passed before Olivia Carter answered. Why are you checking accounts now? Because thousands of dollars disappeared. Olivia Carter handled a payment. What payment? A business expense. What business expense? Olivia Carter became quiet. Ethan Carter, this questioning is exhausting. My money disappeared, and asking about money is exhausting? I already explained. No. Olivia Carter gave another answer without details. Olivia Carter lowered the voice. Ethan Carter, this behavior is making everything worse. I ended the call. For the first time, I realized Olivia Carter was not trying to solve my concerns. Olivia Carter was trying to avoid my concerns. That evening, I searched through old financial records. I found several transfers connected to an account I did not recognize. The account name belonged to a company connected with Mason Brooks. My hands became cold. Mason Brooks was entering every part of my life. My home, my marriage, my finances. I wanted to confront Olivia Carter immediately. I wanted answers. I wanted Olivia Carter to admit everything. But anger could destroy evidence. I remembered those words from my father years ago. Truth needs patience, Ethan Carter. Anger only creates mistakes. So I stayed quiet. The next few days became a different kind of battle. I watched. I listened. I collected proof. I checked documents. I saved messages. I recorded suspicious conversations. Olivia Carter noticed my silence. One night, Olivia Carter looked at me during dinner. Ethan Carter, why are you so quiet? I am tired. Tired of what? Try to understand things. Olivia Carter looked nervous. Ethan Carter, nothing is happening. I looked directly at Olivia Carter. Then honesty should not be difficult. Olivia Carter pushed the plate away. I feel like Ethan Carter is treating Olivia Carter like an enemy. I answered softly. I feel like Olivia Carter stopped treating Ethan Carter like a husband. The room became silent. Olivia Carter looked away. I knew that silence contained answers. The next morning, I found a folder hidden inside my office drawer. The folder contained property documents. My family property documents. My grandfather's house. The property I inherited years earlier. I opened the papers carefully. My name appeared on the documents. But the signature looked wrong. My signature. A fake version of my signature. I stared at the paper. Someone tried to transfer my property without my permission. I already knew the answer. Mason Brooks. Olivia Carter. Both names were connected to the betrayal. I closed the folder and whispered to myself, this ends now. I did not feel revenge. I felt determination, because the truth was finally leaving a trail. I placed the documents back exactly where I found them. I did not want Olivia Carter or Mason Brooks to know that I discovered the plan. Not yet. I needed more than suspicion. I needed proof that nobody could deny. That evening, Mason Brooks arrived at my house without warning. I watched Mason Brooks enter the living room with complete confidence. Mason Brooks looked around like the house already belonged to Mason Brooks. Ethan Carter, we need to talk. I remained standing. What does Mason Brooks want to discuss? Mason Brooks smiled. Business. I looked at Olivia Carter, sitting on the couch. Everything is always business. Olivia Carter looked annoyed. Ethan Carter, please do not start another argument. I looked at Olivia Carter. Another argument? Or another question? Mason Brooks laughed softly. Ethan Carter, suspicion can destroy a person's peace. I looked at Mason Brooks. Lies destroy more than suspicion. Mason Brooks stepped closer. Ethan Carter, some people hold on to things that no longer matter. I understood the hidden meaning. Mason Brooks was talking about my property. I control my anger. What exactly does Mason Brooks think no longer matters? Mason Brooks smiled. Nothing. Forget I said anything. Mason Brooks left shortly after. I watched the car disappear from the driveway. The confidence bothered me. Mason Brooks was not worried. Mason Brooks believed I was still the same person who trusted every word. That was Mason Brooks's mistake. Later that night, I checked Olivia Carter's phone while Olivia Carter was sleeping. I hated doing it. I never imagined becoming someone who searched through a spouse's private messages. But betrayal changes people. I found messages between Olivia Carter and Mason Brooks. The messages were not about business. They were about my property. One message from Mason Brooks said, the documents are almost ready. Ethan Carter will never notice. Another message from Olivia Carter said, Ethan Carter trusts me. Everything will work. I closed the phone. My chest felt heavy. The person I trusted most was helping someone take away everything I built. I sat alone in the dark living room. I remembered every difficult year, every bill I paid, every sacrifice I made, every dream I shared with Olivia Carter. All of those memories felt different now. The next day, I contacted a lawyer without telling Olivia Carter. I needed someone who understood the situation. I also bought a small recording device. Not because I wanted revenge, because I needed protection. A few days later, Olivia Carter and Mason Brooks arrived at the house while thinking I was away. I had returned early and parked my car far from the house. I entered quietly through the back door. I placed the recorder near the living room. Then I waited. I heard Olivia Carter's voice. "Mason Brooks, are you sure this will work?" Mason Brooks answered confidently. "Olivia Carter, stop worrying. Ethan Carter will not discover anything." My hands tightened. Olivia Carter whispered, "What if Ethan Carter finds out?" Mason Brooks laughed. "Ethan Carter always believes people. That is the weakness." I listened carefully. Olivia Carter spoke again. "The property transfer must happen soon." Mason Brooks replied, "Once the property is sold, the money will solve everything." My heart felt broken, but my mind stayed calm. I recorded every word. I recorded the truth. Olivia Carter and Mason Brooks continued discussing the plan. They talked about forged documents. They talked about moving money. They talked about leaving me with nothing. I stood there silently, feeling the pain, but refusing to break. The old Ethan Carter would have walked inside and demanded answers. The old Ethan Carter would have shouted. The old Ethan Carter would have allowed emotions to control everything. But that version of Ethan Carter was gone. I picked up the recorder after the conversation ended. I looked at the files. The evidence was finally complete. I whispered, "Olivia Carter, Mason Brooks, the truth is no longer hidden." I walked outside with the recording in my pocket. The betrayal hurt. The pain was real. But for the first time in weeks, I felt something stronger than sadness. I felt control. Because every secret leaves evidence, and every betrayal eventually meets the truth. The hardest battle was not collecting evidence. The hardest battle was controlling my emotions. Every part of me wanted to confront Olivia Carter. Every part of me wanted to ask why the person I trusted most decided to destroy everything we built. But anger was dangerous. Anger could warn Olivia Carter. Anger could warn Mason Brooks. I needed patience. I needed control. The next morning, I sat inside my office with all the evidence spread across my desk. Bank records, property documents, messages, recordings. Everything showed the same painful truth. Olivia Carter and Mason Brooks planned to take away my future. A knock came at the door. I quickly closed the folder. "Come in." Grace Miller entered my office holding a small notebook. "Ethan Carter, I hope I am not disturbing anything." I looked at Grace Miller. "No, Grace Miller can come in." Grace Miller sat across from me. "Ethan Carter." The neighbor mentioned some problems at home. I did not want personal details, but I noticed something seems wrong. I remained quiet. Grace Miller continued. "If Ethan Carter needs legal advice, Grace Miller can help." I looked at the documents. How much does Grace Miller already know? Only that Ethan Carter looks exhausted and worried. I took a deep breath. Olivia Carter and Mason Brooks are trying to steal my property. Grace Miller became serious. "Does Ethan Carter have proof?" I placed the folder on the table. Enough proof to understand what happened. Maybe not enough proof to win. Grace Miller opened the folder carefully. After several minutes, Grace Miller looked at me. "Ethan Carter, this is serious." "I know. Does Olivia Carter know Ethan Carter discovered these documents?" "No." "Does Mason Brooks know?" "No." Grace Miller closed the folder. "Good." I look confused. "Good." "Yes." Silence is protecting Ethan Carter right now. I look down. I feel like I'm doing nothing. Grace Miller shook the head. "Ethan Carter is doing the most important thing. Ethan Carter is thinking before acting." I stayed quiet. Grace Miller continued. "If Ethan Carter confronts Olivia Carter today, what happens?" "Olivia Carter destroys evidence." "Exactly. If Ethan Carter attacks Mason Brooks emotionally, Mason Brooks prepares a defense." I nodded slowly. Grace Miller leaned forward. The person who stays calm controls the situation. Those words stayed in my mind. For years, I believed strength meant fighting back immediately. Now, I understood strength could also mean waiting. I spent the next several days quietly collecting everything. I copied bank statements. I saved every message. I stored recordings in different locations. I downloaded security camera footage. I made copies of every suspicious contract. Every action felt painful. Every document reminded me of betrayal. But every document also gave me power. One evening, Olivia Carter walked into the living room. "Ethan Carter, something feels different." I looked up from my laptop. "What feels different?" "Silence." I closed the laptop. Silence is not always a bad thing. Olivia Carter studied my face. "Ethan Carter, are you angry?" "No." "Then why does Ethan Carter feel so distant?" I looked at Olivia Carter. Maybe Ethan Carter is tired of explaining feelings that nobody listens to. Olivia Carter looked uncomfortable. Olivia Carter never wanted to hurt Ethan Carter. I almost responded. I almost asked about Mason Brooks. I almost asked about the property. But I stopped. Instead, I said, "Okay." Olivia Carter looked surprised. "Okay." "Yes." "Okay." The simple answer confused Olivia Carter more than anger would have. I could see uncertainty growing. Olivia Carter expected an emotional reaction. Olivia Carter expected questions. Olivia Carter expected the old Ethan Carter. That Ethan Carter was disappearing. The following morning, I received another message from Mason Brooks. The message was simple. "Ethan Carter, Mason Brooks wants to discuss the property." I stared at the screen. A few weeks earlier, I would have rushed to answer. Now I smiled. Mason Brooks believed everything was moving according to the plan. Mason Brooks did not know the plan had already changed. I replied, "Okay, Mason Brooks can come tomorrow." Grace Miller called me later that afternoon. "Ethan Carter, are all important files protected?" "Yes." Grace Miller, every document, recording, and message has copies. "Good. Now Ethan Carter needs to prepare for the next step." "What step?" "The legal step." I looked outside the window. "Is Ethan Carter ready for that?" Grace Miller answered calmly. Ethan Carter already made the hardest decision. Ethan Carter accepted the truth. Those words felt painful. Accepting the truth was harder than discovering the truth. I spent years building a life with Olivia Carter. I spent years believing every promise. Now, I was preparing to protect myself from the person who once promised forever. The next day, Mason Brooks arrived at my house. Mason Brooks walked inside with the same confidence as before. "Ethan Carter, good to see Ethan Carter being reasonable." I sat down. "What does Mason Brooks want?" Mason Brooks placed a folder on the table. "This is a business opportunity." I opened the folder. The same property, the same documents, the same fake signature. I looked at Mason Brooks. "Why does Mason Brooks care so much about this property?" Mason Brooks smiled. "Because Ethan Carter should understand when an opportunity arrives, smart people take it." I closed the folder. "Interesting." Mason Brooks looked surprised. "Ethan Carter agrees?" I said interesting. I did not say yes. Mason Brooks leaned back. "Ethan Carter, refusing this deal would be a mistake." I looked directly at Mason Brooks. Maybe trusting the wrong people was the bigger mistake. For a second, Mason Brooks became quiet. Then Mason Brooks stood up. "Ethan Carter should think carefully." "I already have." After Mason Brooks left, I saved the conversation details. Every interaction mattered. Every word mattered. That evening, Olivia Carter entered the room. "Ethan Carter." Mason Brooks said Ethan Carter seemed different. I looked at Olivia Carter. "Different how?" "Cold." I smiled slightly. Maybe Ethan Carter finally learned something. "What?" Silence can reveal more than questions. Olivia Carter looked nervous. "Ethan Carter, what does that mean?" I closed my laptop. "It means Ethan Carter is done chasing answers." Olivia Carter walked away without another word. The next morning, I met Grace Miller at the attorney office. Grace Miller placed several papers in front of me. "Ethan Carter, these documents will protect the property and personal assets." I picked up the pen. My hand paused for a moment. Signing the papers felt like closing a chapter of my life. A chapter built on trust. A chapter destroyed by betrayal. Grace Miller looked at me. Ethan Carter, are you ready? I looked at the documents. Then I thought about every lie, every secret, every moment when Olivia Carter asked for trust without giving honesty. I signed. Yes, Ethan Carter is ready. Grace Miller collected the papers. From this moment, the situation changes. I stood up. For the first time in weeks, I did not feel broken. I felt prepared. Olivia Carter and Mason Brooks still believed silence meant weakness. They did not understand. Silence had become my greatest weapon. The day after signing the legal documents, I received a call from Daniel Carter. I looked at the phone screen for several seconds before answering. Daniel Carter had always been the person who noticed problems before I admitted problems existed. I answered, Daniel Carter. Ethan Carter, finally. I smiled slightly. Why does Daniel Carter sound worried? Because Daniel Carter heard about Olivia Carter and Mason Brooks. I became quiet. Who told Daniel Carter? Nobody needed to tell everything. Family notices pain. I looked down. I am handling it. Daniel Carter sighed. Ethan Carter always says that. Because Ethan Carter is handling it. Is Ethan Carter fighting for justice or fighting because Ethan Carter is hurt? The question surprised me. I stayed silent. Daniel Carter continued. Listen carefully. Revenge feels powerful when the heart is broken. But revenge can destroy the person searching for it. I do not want revenge. Good. I want the truth. Daniel Carter paused. That is the difference between weakness and strength. A few hours later, Daniel Carter arrived at my house. We sat in the living room where so many painful conversations happened. Daniel Carter looked around. This place feels different. Because everything changed. Daniel Carter looked at me. Ethan Carter changed too. I had to. Daniel Carter nodded. Good. Because the old Ethan Carter trusted everyone. I looked at the floor. The old Ethan Carter loved Olivia Carter. Love was never the mistake. Then what was? Giving someone unlimited trust without protecting yourself. Those words hurt because they were true. The next morning, legal proceedings officially began. Grace Miller arrived with the evidence. I sat inside the conference room while documents covered the table. Grace Miller looked prepared. Ethan Carter, today everything changes. I looked at the files. Will the truth be enough? Grace Miller answered immediately. The truth becomes powerful when supported by evidence. The investigators entered shortly after. The first documents appeared. Bank transfers, property records, forged signatures, illegal transactions. One question followed another. Who approved these transfers? Grace Miller answered. These records show unauthorized movement of funds connected to Ethan Carter's accounts. The investigator looked at me. Ethan Carter, did Ethan Carter approve these transactions? No. Did Ethan Carter sign these property documents? No. The investigator studied the papers. Then these documents may represent fraud. Hearing that word felt strange. For weeks, I knew betrayal happened. But hearing the truth spoken officially made everything real. Olivia Carter arrived with Mason Brooks. Olivia Carter looked nervous. Mason Brooks looked confident, at least at first. Mason Brooks sat across from me. Ethan Carter, this is unnecessary. I looked at Mason Brooks. Is it? Yes. This situation can be solved privately. I remained calm. The private solution was honesty. Mason Brooks looked away. Olivia Carter spoke quietly. Ethan Carter, please. I looked at Olivia Carter. For months, Olivia Carter asked Ethan Carter to trust. Olivia Carter lowered the eyes. I made mistakes. Mistakes are forgetting an appointment. Mistakes are not stealing someone's future. The room became silent. The investigator continued reviewing documents. More problems appeared. Tax records, hidden accounts, fake contracts. Each discovery damaged Mason Brooks's confidence. Grace Miller placed another file on the table. This contains additional evidence. Mason Brooks immediately reacted. Where did this come from? I looked at Mason Brooks. The truth does not need permission to appear. Mason Brooks became angry. This is a setup. The investigator looked at Mason Brooks. Can Mason Brooks explain these transactions? Mason Brooks opened the mouth. No answer came. The room remained quiet. For the first time, Mason Brooks did not look powerful. Mason Brooks looked worried. The investigator placed another document on the table. This property transfer contains a signature that appears inconsistent. Olivia Carter looked at Mason Brooks. What does that mean? Mason Brooks avoided the question. Olivia Carter, stay calm. I watched Olivia Carter carefully. That was the first moment when Olivia Carter started seeing the truth. Not my accusations. Not my anger. The truth. Olivia Carter turned toward Mason Brooks. You told Olivia Carter everything was legal. Mason Brooks responded quickly. It was supposed to be legal. Olivia Carter's face changed. Supposed to be? Mason Brooks became frustrated. Olivia Carter, this is not the time. I noticed the change. The same person who convinced Olivia Carter to betray me was now trying to escape responsibility. The investigator continued. Additional information shows possible financial fraud connected to Mason Brooks. Mason Brooks stood up. This is because of Olivia Carter. Everyone looked at Mason Brooks. Olivia Carter looked shocked. What? Mason Brooks pointed toward Olivia Carter. Olivia Carter provided information about Ethan Carter's assets. I felt a painful disappointment. Not because I expected loyalty from Mason Brooks. I expected nothing. But seeing Olivia Carter realize the truth was difficult. Olivia Carter whispered, Mason Brooks, did Mason Brooks only want the money? Mason Brooks stayed silent. That silence answered everything. Olivia Carter looked down. No. Mason Brooks became defensive. Olivia Carter wanted a better life. I looked at Mason Brooks. No. Mason Brooks wanted control. Mason Brooks looked at me. Ethan Carter should not pretend to be innocent. Ethan Carter was never enough for Olivia Carter. Those words hurt, but they no longer controlled me. I answered calmly. Maybe Ethan Carter was not enough for Olivia Carter's expectations. But Ethan Carter was enough to stay loyal. Nobody spoke. The investigator collected the documents. The investigation will continue. Grace Miller looked at me. Ethan Carter, this is the beginning. I nodded. I know. The next few days moved quickly. Investigators contacted banks. Financial records were reviewed. More hidden transactions appeared. Mason Brooks started losing control. The confidence disappeared. The person who once walked into my house like the owner now struggled to answer simple questions. Olivia Carter contacted me several times. I ignored the first calls. The fifth call finally connected. Ethan Carter, please listen. I remained quiet. I know everything is terrible. Yes, I made a mistake. I closed my eyes. Olivia Carter, a mistake does not involve planning someone's destruction. I thought Mason Brooks cared. I looked out the window, and now Olivia Carter knows the truth. A painful silence followed. Ethan Carter, can forgiveness happen? I thought about that question. I thought about every memory, every promise, every lie. I forgive Olivia Carter for my own peace. Olivia Carter became quiet. But forgiveness does not mean everything returns. The call ended. For the first time, I felt free. Not because Olivia Carter suffered. Not because Mason Brooks lost power. I felt free because I stopped carrying their choices. 1 week later, I received a final update from the investigators. Grace Miller called me. Ethan Carter, the accounts connected to Mason Brooks have been frozen. I sat down. Already, yes. The evidence was strong enough. I looked around my office. Months ago, I thought everything was disappearing. My marriage, my home, my future. But now I understood something. Losing people who betray me is not the same as losing myself. I built my life once. I could build it again. Daniel Carter called after hearing the news. Ethan Carter, how does victory feel? I smiled. It does not feel like victory. What does it feel like? Peace. Daniel Carter laughed softly. That answer sounds like Ethan Carter finally understands. I looked at the documents on my desk. I understand that revenge was never the goal. What was the goal? Getting my life back. The courtroom did not give me back the past. The courtroom gave me something better. The truth. And for the first time in a long time, I was in control of my own future. The weeks after the court hearing changed everything. I thought winning the case would bring happiness, but the truth felt different. The pain did not disappear overnight. The memories did not vanish. The betrayal still existed inside my mind. The difference was simple. I was no longer powerless. One morning, Detective Rachel Adams called me. Ethan Carter, Detective Rachel Adams, has an update about Mason Brooks. I sat down immediately. What happened? Additional evidence was discovered during the investigation. What kind of evidence? Fraudulent investment schemes connected to Mason Brooks. I closed my eyes. How many people were affected? Several investors. Detective Rachel Adams also received statements from former business partners. What did the statements reveal? Similar patterns, false promises, hidden financial activity, money moved without permission. I looked at the documents on my desk. For months, Mason Brooks acted like a person who could never fall. Now the truth was finally catching up. Detective Rachel Adams, will this affect the case? Yes. The evidence becomes stronger. I thanked Detective Rachel Adams and ended the call. For a few minutes, I stayed quiet. A part of me wanted to feel satisfied. A part of me wanted to celebrate. But another part of me remembered the person I used to be. The person who believed trust could fix everything. Later that afternoon, Grace Miller visited my office. Ethan Carter, Detective Rachel Adams, shared the update. Yes. How does Ethan Carter feel? I looked at the window. I expected anger. And now I feel tired. Grace Miller nodded. That is normal. I spent so much time fighting for the truth. I thought revenge would make me feel better. Grace Miller smiled slightly. And does revenge feel important now? I shook my head. No. Why? Because the truth already did what revenge could never do. Grace Miller placed a folder on the desk. Sometimes people destroy their own lives through their choices. I looked at the folder. Karma never needed my help. A few days later, Olivia Carter's world started changing. Clients stopped working with Olivia Carter. Business partners stopped answering calls. The reputation Olivia Carter built over years started disappearing. I heard the news through people who once praised Olivia Carter's success. A former client called me. Ethan Carter, I hope this call is not uncomfortable. It is okay. What happened? I wanted to apologize. I believed Olivia Carter without knowing the truth. You do not need to apologize to Ethan Carter. I should have noticed something was wrong. I remained quiet. The truth was painful, but I did not want more people carrying guilt. Everyone makes choices. Everyone learns from those choices. After the call ended, I received another message. This time from Olivia Carter. Ethan Carter, please talk to Olivia Carter. I stared at the message. I did not answer immediately. A second message arrived. Please, Olivia Carter needs one conversation. I finally replied. One conversation. That evening, Olivia Carter arrived at my office. The person standing in front of me looked different. Not because appearance changed, because confidence disappeared. Ethan Carter, thank you for meeting Olivia Carter. I nodded. Why did Olivia Carter want this conversation? Olivia Carter looked down. Because Olivia Carter needs forgiveness. I stayed silent. Every lie started because of greed and pride. The words were difficult to hear. Olivia Carter continued. Mason Brooks made everything seem easy. Mason Brooks promised a better life. I looked at Olivia Carter, and Olivia Carter believed those promises. Yes, the answer was honest. For the first time in months, I heard honesty. But honesty arrived too late. Olivia Carter looked at me with tears in the eyes. Ethan Carter, Olivia Carter knows forgiveness cannot repair everything. I stayed quiet. Olivia Carter continued. Olivia Carter remembers every promise Ethan Carter made. Olivia Carter remembers every sacrifice Ethan Carter gave. I looked away. Then why did Olivia Carter choose Mason Brooks? Olivia Carter closed the eyes. Because Olivia Carter became selfish. The answer hurt because it was simple. No excuses. No blame. Just the truth. I spent years building a life with Olivia Carter. I know. I trusted Olivia Carter when everyone else warned me. I know. I defended Olivia Carter. I know. The silence between us felt heavier than any argument. Olivia Carter wiped away tears. Can Ethan Carter ever forgive Olivia Carter? I took a deep breath. Forgiveness is not about forgetting. I understand. Forgiveness means Ethan Carter does not want anger controlling the future. Olivia Carter nodded slowly. But another chance? I looked at Olivia Carter. No. The answer was painful. For both of us. Olivia Carter lowered the eyes. I expected that answer. I stood near the window. Olivia Carter, some doors close because people choose to walk away from them. Olivia Carter cried quietly. I wish Olivia Carter understood everything earlier. So does Ethan Carter. After Olivia Carter left, I sat alone for a long time. I remembered the first day Olivia Carter and I met. I remembered the wedding. I remembered the promises. I remembered the nights when Olivia Carter held my hand and promised forever. Those memories were real. The betrayal was also real. Both things could exist together. The next morning, Detective Rachel Adams called again. Ethan Carter, Mason Brooks will face criminal charges. I listened carefully. What happens next? The legal process continues. The evidence includes investment fraud, forged documents, and financial crimes. I nodded. Thank you for the update. Ethan Carter, Detective Rachel Adams wants to ask something. What? Does Ethan Carter feel satisfied? I thought about the question. No. I wanted justice. I never wanted another person's destruction. Detective Rachel Adams became quiet. That answer shows growth. I looked outside. Maybe. A few days later, I attended another courthouse hearing. Mason Brooks entered the room looking completely different from the confident person who once walked into my home. The powerful image disappeared. The arrogance disappeared. Only consequences remained. Mason Brooks looked toward me. Ethan Carter, this is not over. I looked at Mason Brooks. Actually, Mason Brooks, this ended when the truth appeared. Mason Brooks looked angry. You think Ethan Carter won? I answered calmly. Ethan Carter did not win because Mason Brooks lost. I paused. Ethan Carter won because Ethan Carter found peace. Mason Brooks had no answer. The hearing continued. More evidence appeared. More accusations were confirmed. The court moved closer to the final decision. After everything ended, I walked outside. The sky was clear. For months, my life felt like a storm. Now the storm was finally passing. Olivia Carter stood near the courthouse entrance. Ethan Carter. I stopped walking. Olivia Carter looked broken. Please wait. I turned around. I hope Olivia Carter finds peace. Olivia Carter cried. Does Ethan Carter really feel nothing? I looked at Olivia Carter. I feel everything. Then why walk away? Because Ethan Carter cannot heal while living inside the same pain. Olivia Carter covered the face and cried. I stood there for a moment. Not with anger. Not with hatred. Only acceptance. Then I turned and walked away. I did not need revenge. I did not need to destroy Olivia Carter or Mason Brooks. Their choices already created the consequences. Karma never needed my help. 6 months changed more than I expected. When everything started, I believed losing Olivia Carter meant losing my entire life. I was wrong. Losing the person who betrayed me gave me the chance to rebuild the person I forgot. My construction company grew faster than before. Not because of luck, because I stopped depending on people who did not respect my trust. Daniel Carter worked beside me every day. One morning, Daniel Carter entered my office holding a project folder. Ethan Carter, another client, approved the new project. I smiled. That makes 3 major projects this month. Daniel Carter placed the folder on the desk. Remember when Ethan Carter thought everything was over? I laughed quietly. I remember. What changed? I looked around the office. I changed. Daniel Carter nodded. That is the answer. I leaned back. Before everything happened, I thought protecting people meant accepting everything. And now I know protecting myself is also important. Daniel Carter smiled. That lesson was expensive. I looked down. Very expensive. But worth learning? I thought for a moment. Yes. Life became peaceful again. Not perfect. Peaceful. There was a difference. I no longer checked phones. I no longer questioned every conversation. I no longer wondered if someone was hiding something. The fear slowly disappeared. Grace Miller remained part of my life. Not as a lawyer anymore. As a true friend. One afternoon, Grace Miller joined me for coffee. Ethan Carter looks happier. I smiled. Is that surprising? A little. Why? Because Ethan Carter experienced something painful and still found a way to move forward. I looked at the coffee cup. Moving forward was not easy. I know. Some nights, memories returned. Grace Miller nodded. What did Ethan Carter do during those nights? I remember the lesson, not the pain. Grace Miller smiled. That is growth. I looked outside. For a long time, I thought forgetting was the only way to heal. And now I know remembering is okay. The memories just cannot control the future. Grace Miller lifted the coffee cup. That sounds like someone who finally trusts himself. I smiled. Maybe that was the trust one needed first. Months later, I received news about Mason Brooks. Detective Rachel Adams called me. Ethan Carter, the final sentencing has been completed. I listened carefully. What was the decision? Mason Brooks received a prison sentence for multiple financial crimes. I remained silent. The news felt different than I expected. I thought I would feel happiness. I did not. I felt closure. Detective Rachel Adams, thank you for informing Ethan Carter. You are welcome. After the call ended, I sat quietly. Mason Brooks lost everything because of choices. Not because of me. That difference mattered. A week later, I heard Olivia Carter started rebuilding life alone. No business partners. No expensive lifestyle. No people pretending to care. Only reality. I felt sadness, but not anger. Olivia Carter was someone I loved once. That memory would always exist. But love could not erase betrayal. One evening, I received a letter from Olivia Carter. I opened the envelope carefully. The letter was simple. Ethan Carter, Olivia Carter knows apologies cannot repair everything. Olivia Carter knows trust was destroyed because of selfish decisions. Olivia Carter hopes Ethan Carter finds happiness. I read the letter twice. Then I placed the letter away. Not because I hated Olivia Carter. Because I accepted what happened. A year after everything changed, I stood inside my new home for the first time. The house was not the biggest house in the city. It was not filled with expensive decorations. It was not built to impress anyone. It was built with my own effort. Every wall represented a lesson. Every room represented a new beginning. Daniel Carter walked through the front door and looked around. Ethan Carter, this place is incredible. I smiled. It took a long time. Daniel Carter touched the wooden wall. Every detail shows how much work went into this. I nodded. Before, I worked to create a life for everyone else. And now I build a life that respects Ethan Carter too. Daniel Carter smiled. That is something the old Ethan Carter needed to learn. I looked around the room. The old pain still existed somewhere inside my memories. But the pain no longer controlled my choices. I learned that betrayal could break a person, but betrayal could also reveal strength. Grace Miller arrived later that evening with a small gift. Ethan Carter, congratulations. I opened the package. Inside was a simple frame with a message. Trust yourself first. I smiled. Grace Miller always finds the right words. Grace Miller laughed. Because Ethan Carter finally started listening. I placed a frame on the shelf. For a long time, I searched for reasons why people changed. And now I understand people show their true selves through actions. Grace Miller nodded. That understanding will protect Ethan Carter. I looked through the window. The city lights reflected across the street. I used to think losing Olivia Carter was the worst thing that happened. Grace Miller remained quiet. Now I think losing that old life was necessary. Why? Because that life was built on trust without boundaries. Grace Miller smiled. And this life is built on respect. A few days later, I visited the old house one final time. The place carried many memories. Some beautiful, some painful. I walked through the rooms quietly. I remembered the first day Olivia Carter and I entered that house. I remember dreams. I remembered promises. I remember the moment everything changed. But I did not feel anger. I felt acceptance. Before leaving, I locked the door. The sound of the lock closing felt peaceful. I stood there for a moment. That small action felt like the ending of a long chapter. I looked at the house one last time. Then I smiled. Because I finally understood something important. Trust is not about believing every word. Trust is about choosing people who respect the faith placed in them. Love is not about losing yourself for another person. Love is about two people protecting each other's hearts. I walked toward my car with confidence. The past stayed behind the locked door. The future waited ahead. I did not become stronger because Olivia Carter betrayed me. I became stronger because I decided betrayal would not define me. I found my purpose again. I found peace again. Most importantly, I found myself again.